We've all been there. You hire a salesperson with the perfect resume, 10 years of experience on their plate, a massive network of contacts. They look like a total slam dunk on paper. But then 90 days later, you're firing them because they haven't closed a single deal. That's because you hired for experience when you should have been hiring for character. Today, I'm going to show you 3 unteachable traits that actually predict sales success, and none of them you're going to find on your applicant's resume. Hey everyone, Drew Norton here, the Everyday Sales Leader. I've personally sold tens of millions in products and services, built and scaled large sales teams, and taught hundreds of people how to go from minimum wage to 6-figure incomes in sales. My mission, I want to change the way the world sees sales, because selling is noble, selling is leadership, it's freedom, it's abundance, and most importantly, sales is life. Today, we're kicking off a special 3-part series on how to build a high-performing sales team from the ground up. In this first video, we're going to tackle the biggest mistakes leaders make, hiring based on a resume instead of the person. So that first trait we're looking for is hunger, really their drive at the end of the day. You can teach product knowledge and sales scripts, but you can't teach hustle and you can't teach internal drive. So maybe this will sound familiar to you if you've hired salespeople before. Yeah, multiple times I've hired experienced reps. I've assumed they've had success only to find that all they expected were to have things handed to them all day. Maybe that's leads, maybe that's something else. Or they are unwilling to follow their new company's process because they already know how to sell, which could be partially an onboarding problem, but we'll talk about that more in another video. I want to make sure when I'm hiring someone, am I looking for someone who's a farmer or someone who's a hunter? And listen, I think based on where your organization is at, what kind of salespeople you're looking for, the type of growth you want, you might be looking for one or the other. The problem is am I hiring a hunter when I need a farmer, or am I hiring a farmer when I need a hunter? Sometimes we need someone who's going to develop relationships, who can nurture and grow things, and who can really come in and take over a relationship and take them to the finish line. Other times we need somebody who can go out and find and eat what they kill. So you want to watch out and make sure that you don't hire the wrong person for the wrong seat. And sometimes that's just all the problem is in the finding that experienced person. How can we test this? How can we make sure in our interview process or when we're hiring, when selecting people, we know that they're the right fit for us? There's a few things I want to test and find out. One, I want to know what their why is. I want to know what's important to you. What is the goal that you're personally working towards, the professional goals that you're looking for? I'm looking for, clear vision on what they want to make financially and why that number is even important to them. I also want to know, what their experience has been in the past. Like, when is a time they've gone above and beyond what they were asked to do in a sales role, and have them answer to that. Also, if I am hiring someone in a commission-based role, I want to ask about their comfort level on being commission only or having a larger portion of their pay go towards commissions versus being salaried and more of a guaranteed paycheck. That brings us to point number 2, coachability. Are they willing to grow? Sometimes experience can be a trap. This often can mean they already come to work with you with bad habits and an ego that refuses to learn. So you got to make sure you've got someone that can adapt and grow regardless of their experience. Sometimes what I've found when I hire reps why they don't succeed is they want to do something exciting. You give them the basics, you give them the fundamentals. They want to reinvent the wheel. They want to go out and make the process more exciting than what you showed them. They want to discover a new way of doing it or a better way of doing it. Now look, I'm all for innovation, and sometimes we want our sales reps going out and looking for new and better ways. And when you have a proven process, when you hire a rep, you want to make sure they can follow steps, they can follow order, they can do the mundane over and over and over again. Kobe Bryant famously said he was one of the best because he never got bored with the basics. And that's how you have to treat the foundation of sales, especially when you're bringing in a new hire. How in hiring do we make sure that they're actually coachable? Make sure that they're willing to stick to a process, that they're willing to do the things that we ask, that they're willing to take feedback and go implement it. So sometimes what I like to do is right in the middle of an interview, I want to ask them to sell me something. go through a role play and then actually give them some feedback and see how they respond to it. Do they justify why they did what they said? Do they get argumentative? Do they take the feedback, and if we role play again, do they actually use what I've taught them or what I've suggested they do differently? That can be great feedback right off the bat, just to show you, catch them off guard and see just how they respond. Another way you can determine how coachable somebody is ask them about failure. Ask them to explain to you times in their life they failed and how they overcame it. Ask them if they've got sales experience, how they've done that specifically in sales, and pay attention to what they say. Did they look for feedback? Do they go to others, right? Or do they grind it out, and do they just do things on their own? And look, I love the grind out mentality, and that's what I want. And I also want to make sure, are they open to being coachable and taught by others? Really what we're looking for is, do they own things instead of blaming things? The third trait I'm looking for when I'm selecting someone into my organization is the alignment, or in other words, the fit. So you can have a great salesperson who, if put in the wrong role, can actually be a bad hire. And often if you're the leader making that hire, that's on you, not on them. Look, success is contextual. Let me just kind of illustrate how that come about. Oftentimes when we say someone is good at sales, we lump everything all into one category. When in reality, there's a lot of different aspects of sales where someone can have different strengths and weaknesses. So for example, someone who prospects and cold calls requires a completely different skill set and mentality than someone who's good at closing and consultations. Also, some sales jobs require more of a hands-on and relationship type of approach, where there's often project management and a relationship after the sale. Some reps are great at that. Others, they want to go find the deal and move on to the next one. Are we looking for someone that's going to develop long-term relationships with people and continue to be there? Are they going to go out and hunt? Are they going to farm? Like, what is the role you're hiring for? And do they fit that role? Also, the type of product or service, the industry, the company can all change different things. When I first made the transition from selling residential and B2B products and services to coaching and investments, that was a little bit more of a struggle for me, because part of what I realized is that discovery was going to be way more important when I sold coaching or investments or ideas. Not that you didn't do discovery in those other things. And what I found is you've got to make sure the skills align, and if the skills aren't there, or if they don't have the experience necessary, can they learn the skills, and do we have the training and the support to get them there? Another way to make sure we're hiring people that are aligned is the use of AI and technology. One of my favorite tools for that is Hire Aligned. They have a tool that you can use to screen applicants, where you take an assessment of your organization to see what your current culture is. The AI gives them a series of questions, asks them to tell stories to make sure they're culturally a good fit for the organization, helping you save time and maybe screen out people before you even actually have an interview with some of them. Now, we got to remember that sometimes, even though they might have all the skills, they might be the great person, they might be the awesome salesperson, and they've got all the attributes that would make them an amazing hire in your organization, if they're not a cultural fit, or if they're a toxic hire, that can destroy the entire culture of the team. So you want to really make sure you prioritize alignment, and that you prioritize that over just the raw numbers that someone can bring to the table. And so maybe some of the ways we can test that are in the selection process. When we're doing an interview with someone, you describe the hardest parts of the job, maybe what's mundane, maybe what's repetitive, maybe what they're going to run into, and ask on a scale of 1 to 10 how much that would energize them or drain them to do that. And look, we want to find honesty. We don't want them to just to say, hey, it's a 10 just because it sounds good. Ask them why, follow up, understand why they say that or think that way about it, right? And I'd rather get someone to tell me early on, hey, this is why I don't think this is a good fit for me, save us both time and money. Now, depending on your organization, you might rely a lot on people working together as closely as a team, or maybe you've got people that maybe your organization is set up for lone wolves and sales reps that go out and work on their own. If so, if one or the other is really important, we probably better have a conversation about that, right? So talk about the things that are important in the organization, important about the culture, important about the work ethic, important about the way you do things, to make sure those people are a fit. Now that you know who to hire and some of the questions to ask them, now we need to make sure they have a clear process for their first 90 days working with us. That's exactly what we're going to be covering in this video series. In the next video, your onboarding is broken. So make sure you're subscribed with the notifications on. But if you're not sure if your current team is set up the right way or that you're confident in how you can grow going forward, I've created a special assessment just for you. If you click the link, you can take the sales team assessment, a quiz designed to give you some feedback on where you're at, which will also give you a guide on how you can move forward. It'll give you a clear picture of where you're at in building the ultimate sales team and show you exactly where you need to focus on next. Remember, sales is life.